and welcome to South Asia Today, a show that provides you the glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host, Shivangi Mishra. Let's begin with the headlines first. Pashtuns raise voice for justice, condemn Pakistan's human rights abuses. Bangladesh battles devastating dengue with over 1,000 death toll. And POK economy at all-time low, all thanks to Pakistan's draconian policies. Let's begin the show. The Pashtuns living in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa are facing persecution due to constant attacks by security agencies. The civilians, including women and children, are reportedly kidnapped, tortured, and even brutally killed, which led to a mass resistance in the province and outside Pakistan. A demonstration was held in front of the United Nations office in Geneva as members of the Pashtun community gathered to protest against severe human rights violations in Pakistan's Pashtun regions. We have a report.
A large number of Pashtuns gathered in front of the United Nations headquarters in Geneva to raise their voices against the human rights abuses in their homeland. Pashtuns from Pakistan and Afghanistan participated in the rally, which moved from Lake Geneva to the iconic broken chair in front of the United Nations. During the rally, they shouted anti-Pakistan slogans and accused the Pakistan army for carrying out atrocities on Pashtun people in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and neighboring parts of Afghanistan.
Pakistani army! Terrorists! Pakistani army! Terrorists!
The Afghans also charged Pakistan with preying on and committing atrocities against Afghan refugees. Fazl-ur-Rahman Afridi, a Pashtun human rights activist, claimed that the Pashtun people are having a difficult time in Pakistan due to the violation of their human rights and the rise in terrorism.
Pashtuns are passing through a very critical period of their life. The Pakistani army is committing gross human rights violations like extrajudicial killings, enforced disappearances, arbitrary detentions and torture. But this time we are concentrating on one of the most important points, that is the systematic use of torture by Pakistan army. For the last few months, they are arresting the activists of PTM and then torturing in custody, and then they are forcing them to publish the videos against PTM. So that is, really an important issue, because the convention, UN Convention on Torture, it states that no person should be subject to torture in any, it's not acceptable in any way.
Meanwhile, the protesters also accused the Pakistan army of abducting Pashtun political activists, torturing and killing them. The protesters hope that their voices will resonate globally, leading to an impartial investigation into the alleged human rights violations in Pakistan's Pashtun regions.
Pakistan is an unnatural country.
ये कि पाकिस्तान में न सिर्फ पश्तून, पाकिस्तान में बलोच, पाकिस्तान में सिंधी, पाकिस्तान में कश्मीरी, कोई भी कौम जो है वो खुश नहीं है। तो पाकिस्तान की आर्मी है, पाकिस्तान की जो फौज है, पंजाबी जो रियासत है, वो मुकम्मल तौर पर इन दहशतगर्दों के पीछे है। ये दहशतगर्दी वो खुद फैला रहे हैं। इसके बदले में हमारे जो 70,000 से ज़्यादा पश्तून मारे जा चुके हैं, हमारे 2 लाख के करीब घर बर्बाद हो चुके हैं, डिमोलिश हो चुके हैं।
Right now we are, as you can see, we are here in front of United Nations. We are giving clearly message to United Nations. The Pashtun are very peaceful people. The Pakistan army are keep pushing Pashtun to which Pashtun are nothing related to the terrorism. and Pakistan Army keep supporting terrorists. We are here to raise our voice to the front of United Nations and tell them that we are nothing to do with the terrorism. And the Pakistan Army keep target killing Pashtuns, Baloch, Sindhi and Kashmiri. And we are here, the protest is very peaceful and a lots of Pashtuns are gathered here to give the message to Pakistan and to the world.
Pashtuns have long blamed that they have been targets of military operations, internal displacement, ethnic stereotyping and abductions by the Pakistani security forces. They claim that the Pakistan Army collaborates with extremist organizations in the area and arbitrarily employs force on innocent Pashtuns.
Moving on to Bangladesh, the country is facing an unprecedented challenge. In recent months, a silent outbreak has been sweeping through its cities and villages, claiming lives and leaving behind a trail of fear. This is the story of Bangladesh's battle against the deadly dengue outbreak on record has over 1,000 this year, with hospitals struggling to make space for patients as the disease spreads rapidly in the densely populated country. Healthcare workers work tirelessly around the clock to provide care for the large number of patients suffering high fever, joint pain and vomiting, while there is a shortage of intravenous fluids. We have a report. Bangladesh is facing an unprecedented crisis due to a deadly dengue outbreak or mosquito-borne viral infection which claims over 1,000 lives in the densely populated country. According to figures published by the country's Directorate General of Health Services, 1,006 people have died from dengue, amongst more than 200,000 confirmed cases of the mosquito-borne disease. In comparison to the previous year, when Bangladesh recorded 281 dengue-related deaths, the current death toll is approximately 4 times higher this year.
সেটা তো বলতে পারি না সকালবেলা ভালো মানুষ শুয়ে রয়েছে রাতে বিয়ান উঠে চোখ মুখ গরম হয়ে গেছে জ্বর উঠছে পরে এসে পরে নিয়ে এলাম এই জায়গা এনে চেকআপের পরে বেরিয়ে ডেঙ্গু হয়েছে
With the number of dengue patients increasing daily, Bangladesh healthcare system found itself stretched to its limits. Hospitals overflowed with patients and medical staff worked tirelessly to provide care to their infected patients. The grim situation is not only in capital city Dhaka, as rural areas are also dealing with an increase in instances. Hospital executives are worried about this change. The hospital's administrator, Niatuzman, who goes by one name, said that although patients from Dhaka have decreased in recent days, the number of people being admitted from rural parts of the country has increased, calling it a concerning sign.
ঢাকার রোগী কমলেও ঢাকার বাইরের অন্যান্য অঞ্চল থেকে রোগীর সংখ্যা ক্রমাগত বেড়ে যাচ্ছে যেমন আজকের পরিসংখ্যান যদি আপনাকে দেই আজকে আমার 54 জন নতুন রোগী ভর্তি হয়েছে গত 24 ঘন্টায় যেখানে 21 জন রোগী আসছে যারা ঢাকার বাইরের অন্যান্য জেলা থেকে এটি একটি উদ্বেগের বিষয়
Dengue infection has no vaccine or drug that specifically treats dengue, which is common in South Asia during the June to September monsoon season, as the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which spreads the disease, thrives in stagnant water. The Aedes mosquito population soared along with the number of dengue cases when the monsoon rains swarmed the streets. Bangladesh faces a long road ahead in its battle against dengue, but its people remain resilient, determined to overcome this crisis and protect their future. Now we take a look at some happenings in Asia in our segment called Asia Watch.
Inside what was once the palace of Iraq's former president, Saddam Hussein, a library of antiquities and heritage opened in the city of Basra, housing a large collection of books and manuscripts on the country's ancient monuments and archaeological sites. Offering academics access to archaeological publications and sources, the new library was inaugurated at Basra Cultural Museum. The library's collection is a first for the southern city's residents and covers Sumerian and Babylonian periods among other ancient Iraq times, according to Hussain. According to Cambridge University, before its reopening to the public in 2019, Basra Museum had been closed since 1991 following the First Gulf War. Weeks of violent protests by young men in Gaza have sent a message about the dire financial squeeze in the Israeli blockade enclave. Economists and even some senior Israeli officials believe and relief measures may be in the offing. Ostensibly, the protest, organized by youth groups but backed by Gaza's ruling Islamist movement, Hamas, were about the treatment of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails and visits by Jewish groups to the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, a site holy to both Muslims and Jews who know it as the Temple Mount. Some 2.3 million people live in the narrow coastal strip, where per capita income is around a quarter the level in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, and where over half the population lives below the poverty line, according to the IMF estimates. In the recent unrest, youths hurling stones and improvised explosive devices faced off against Israeli troops along the border fence, who responded with live fire before calm was restored last week by Egyptian, UN and Qatari negotiators. Gaza's clothing sector, one of the main beneficiaries of any moderation of the blockade, has seen sales rise tenfold since 2015, the year after an earlier war. And this year, revenues look set to top the $22 million generated in 2022. But while Israel has offered economic incentives to avoid conflict, they are always liable to being cut off abruptly, exposing companies like Unipal, which exports 150,000 items a month to Israel, to constant uncertainty.
The draconian policies of the caretaker government in POK related to financial affairs have rendered local businesses shut and the traders defaulting on loans. The skyrocketing inflation has broken the backs of people. They are finding no way out from Islamabad's illegal regime and their economic policies. Their currency has reached a new low against dollar, straining the local economy and businessmen in POK. We have a report.
The residents of the illegally occupied POK region are disgruntled over the economic policies of caretaker government appointed in August this year. The so-called caretaker government in POK has increased petrol and diesel prices 2 times since it came to power. The decision was not well received by the residents, as the region is already suffering high inflation and most of the local businesses have come to a halt.
ये निगरान हुकूमत ने तो जो 2 दफ़ा बम गिराया, तूफान, वो तो गिराया, उससे पहले ही जो हमारे कारोबारी हालात थे वो बिल्कुल हम फारग हो चुके थे कारोबार के लिहाज से, तो पूरी मईशत हमारी तबाह हो चुकी थी। यहाँ तक तो ये पोजीशन है सर कि हमारे कारोबारी लोग डिफ़ॉल्ट कर चुके हैं, वो अपनी प्रॉपर्टियाँ बेच के मुल्क से बाहर जा रहे हैं। ये भी लोगों को पता नहीं है, लेकिन चंद अरसे में आपको ये डेटा क्लियर हो जाएगा कि कितने लोग यहाँ से ये मुल्क छोड़ के चले गए हैं।
The traders and businessmen are largely affected as they are mostly dependent upon the transportation costs. The locals had believed that the so-called caretaker government and their policies would bring some relief from inflation. But to their dismay, the additional measures such as ban on export of dollars and further hikes in petrol-diesel prices have plunged them into poverty.
आम लोगों के ध्यान में ये होता है जब निगरान हुकूमत आती है तो चीज़ें एक जगह पे रुक जाती हैं, लेकिन ये अनहोनी निगरान हुकूमत आ गई कि 2 दफ़ा इन्होंने इतनी बड़ी महंगाई कर दी है कि हम हैरान हो गए कि ये निज़ाम किस तरह आगे चलेगा। तो मेरे ख्याल से अल्लाह ना करे मैं वो गलत बात की तरफ जा रहा हूँ कि माशी तौर पे मुल्क जो है वो डिफ़ॉल्ट की तरफ चला गया हुआ है। ये इस वक्त इन्होंने एक आर्टिफिशियल इकानमी बनाई हुई है कि जी आर्डर हो रहे हैं जनाब, डॉलर ज़्यादा हो जाएगा, डॉलर कम हो जाएगा। ये डॉलर को नहीं रोक सकते, डॉलर को रोकने का एक मैकेनिज्म है। आप बताएं ना, आपकी क्या बरामदात और दरामदात हैं कि आप डॉलर को रोकेंगे? आप घर में बैठ के ज़ोर ज़बरदस्ती डॉलर को नहीं रोक सकते।
The local businesses blame Pakistan for defaulting on international loan payment and for creating an artificial economy as a stopgap measure to control the situation. The currency in POK reached a record low against the dollar in September, further strangulating the cross-border businesses with China and other nations. The locals accused the Pakistan-backed administrators for siphoning money from the region and wrecking their economy.
ये वो लोग बैठे हुए जिन्होंने इस मुल्क का हमेशा बेड़ा गर्क किया है कि जब ये कोई पॉलिसी बनाते हैं उससे पहले अपने तमाम रिश्तेदारों को, अजीज़ों कारब को बता देते हैं जो ज़िंदगी के मुख्तलिफ शोबा के अंदर मौजूद हैं, बड़ी बड़ी पोस्टों के ऊपर, वो चाहे हमारी असम्बलियों में या हमारे अदारों में है, उनको इन्फॉर्म कर दिया जाता है जनाब ये पॉलिसी आने वाली है। अब जो नई पॉलिसी है डॉलर पर पाबंदी की, तमाम डॉलर मुल्क से बाहर चला गया और ये भी यहाँ बैठे हुए पाबंदी लगा के, अब पाबंदी लगाने का कोई फ़ायदा नहीं है। इन्होंने जानबूझ के इस मुल्क को डिफ़ॉल्ट की उस तरफ जो है वो डाल दिया।
Many small businesses have defaulted on loans in POK owing to high inflation and economic crisis in the region. The illegally occupied POK has been bearing the brunt of Islamabad's illicit economic policies for more than 7 decades. The local merchants and residents are barely making it on false optimism and bogus condolences from the so-called caretaker administration, as the region's economy has crashed to an all-time low.
India's mission to uplift its women in diverse domains, from politics to sports, education to entertainment and business, has hit a full throttle. In a huge development, the Indian government has pulled out all the stops by greenlighting a bill that grants women a 33% reservation in Parliament. This stride is not just a drop in the ocean, it's a giant leap towards levelling the playing field. This progressive move signals a bright path ahead, where women's voices and contributions are poised to shine even brighter on the national stage.
India has embarked on a remarkable journey towards empowering its women, who have become an indomitable force across various fields. Whether it's politics, sports, education, entertainment or business, women are now making their presence felt in every sector. But the journey towards self-reliance and recognition started long ago, when women played pivotal roles in making significant yet often overlooked decisions within their families. Today, she matters, and her role holds significance in every aspect of life, from crafting garments and managing households to mentoring as influential leaders and even governing the nation.
Sports, you are talking about media, you are talking about artists, you are talking about entrepreneur, just name it. Women are all around there. If you can look into the strength of the school, earlier the strength of boys and girls were, differentiating as such, but now it is, moral is the same. So once we address the equality, of course the term of equity will come, but maybe in due course of time.
Although women are prominently visible as leaders and contributors to the nation, many still face setbacks due to limited access to social and political opportunities. To rectify this imbalance and ensure equitable representation in Parliament, the Indian government has successfully passed a long-awaited bill. This legislation grants women a 33% reservation in the Parliament of India. The bill, originally proposed in 1996, had encountered multiple postponements by various governments. However, on September 21, 2023, it finally received approval with 100% vote in favour.
I think women today have a stronger voice, definitely in society. They definitely have a stronger voice in business as well. We see so many CEOs now being and big corporates being headed by women. So in that respect, yes, in the last decade, I think there are more and more women who are coming to the forefront in stronger roles. And bills such as these are definitely going to help, whether it's a woman's representation in society, or whether it's in politics, or whether it's in business.
Governments have introduced numerous policies and schemes aimed at improving the financial and academic status of women and ensuring their safety. Initiatives like women's helplines, the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme, Working Women Hostel scheme and the One Stop Center scheme have all played crucial roles in this regard. As per the periodic labour force survey, India's labour force participation rate went gradually from 22.9% in the years 2017 to 18 to 29.4% in 2021 to 22.
There are a lot of policies I mentioned before also, that there are a lot of policies to promote business in women. So Gruha Udyog is one area. There are so many bank loans and schemes that are available for women. A major policy that has been brought up is for women's safety. So the she police was earlier not there. Similarly, now there is a helpline where they can call, I believe it is 181, where any female can call up and reach out. The change and the improvement is required, particularly in the areas of promoting them in business, supporting them how they can come up and be more independent.
Women believe that the past reservation bill will not only elevate their status in society but also provide them with the opportunity to explore various career possibilities. Some acknowledge that change will be gradual, as women's empowerment is more about societal acceptance than just implementing laws in their favor.
As far as laws are concerned, almost all laws are favoring women and aiming towards equality. But there are loopholes as far as implementation is concerned and more of a social acceptance. So I think that change will come slowly.
India's journey toward women's empowerment began with Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister, who granted women voting rights, giving them the power to choose their leaders. Over time, successive governments have introduced many welfare schemes and laws for women's upliftment, but there's still much ground to cover.
Well, it's time for me to wrap up today's episode. We'll be back next week at the same time. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.